Celtics versus the Vets, the Dubs from the Bay. Game 1 on ABC. The Warriors roster has played in a combined 123 finals games. Meanwhile, much different story for the Celtics. No one on the Celtics team has ever played in a finals game. The big three in the beam has been dialed in. Jason Tatum set a regular season career high, while Jaylen Brown averaging nearly 23 per game in the playoffs, the highest of his career. Boston is getting over 65 a game this postseason from their big three. Stephen A. joining us from the Bay, getting set. He'll be with the NBA Countdown crew tonight. That'll be on 8:30 Eastern before the game.
Hello, Molly,
Yeah.
So nice here in New York.
Can I chime in for a second
Yeah, of
before
course.
we even ask this question? I can't even front.
Yeah.
I'm highly upset that
Why?
that we picked the day when I'm gone to do the show out here. The set looks absolutely beautiful. You understand? It looks great. You look great, Molly. Jay Williams, you just finished winning the basketball tournament. We got Mr. Top Gun here, right there, and J.J. Redick, a.k.a. Tom Cruise, with the #1 movie out in America. I mean, you got the backdrop, the East River, the boat,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
people hanging out outside. I'm really upset that this set wasn't created for me while I was there. I'm very upset about this. I got attitude right now, and it happens to be warmer there than it is here, so I'm really ticked off. I really
But you get a chance to
I
see the
gotta
greatest
say
shooters of all time, Stephen A. You're on the
Yeah,
court
up
tonight.
close and personal.
That's a fair balance.
Come on.
That is true. That is true.
You know what? You know
I'm
what
gonna
I
have pretty
say,
good
though?
seats too, Jay. I'm gonna have pretty
Oh,
good
shocking.
seats.
I
You're
know
going to
you
have
are,
good
brother.
seats. You know what?
I know you are.
Last time I checked, you've got a little bit of power here at ESPN. Guess what? We could play it back. We got a rooftop. We got the basketball court. We got the seaport. The weather's nice now. Maybe we'll just have to come outside once
They've
in a
been
while.
lying to you, Molly. Little
Why?
old me, I have no power. I have no
please.
power here. They've been lying to you. I am nothing.
Don't get
okay?
confused with me.
Little
All right.
old
Let's
me.
go.
I'm starting with you here, JJ. Tell me this. Which Celtics needs to have the biggest impact in the finals?
For the Celtics to win this series, it's got to be Jason Tatum. And we've seen an ascension this year from a star player to a superstar player. First team All-NBA. I firmly believe right now, prior to this series, he is a top 8 player in the NBA. And a big difference between Jason Tatum prior to this year and Jason Tatum this year has been that commitment to defense. He actually led the Celtics in defensive win shares, and we saw throughout this playoffs his brilliance on that end of the floor. Kevin Durant, round 1, 4 for 17 when Tatum was the primary defender. Drew Holiday, 10 for 25 when Tatum was the primary defender. Jimmy Butler, as good as he was in that series, shot 39% against Tatum. And Tatum, because of the switching on the Celtics, like he'll eventually end up on Clay at times. He'll eventually end up on Curry at times. His commitment to that end, his dominance on that end at times throughout these playoffs, like that has been the separator for me. That's why we can now talk about Jason Tatum as a superstar. The big question mark with Jason Tatum right now, if I was to analyze his game, and we talked about it earlier, is that decision making. It's the turnovers. It's knowing when to drive, knowing when to pass. It's not stalling out with the basketball. The Warriors are a great defensive team, just like the Celtics. His decision-making is probably the key to his game to unlock for the Celtics to win this series.
JJ, and I agree with everything you're saying. And we all know realistically it's not one player that wins a championship. It's a collective unit of a team. But
Yes.
in my opinion, in order for Jason Tatum to be that guy that constantly hunts and is able to attack, Marcus Smart being on the floor, we all saw that game when Marcus Smart wasn't on the floor. Jason Tatum trying to initiate offenses, trying to make decision-making. One of the things I recognize as a guard that hunted my shot all the time, the less decisions I can make, the more in attack mode I can become, the more I can react to the game. Now, I'm not saying Jason Tatum doesn't need to think through the game, because when you elevate your game, you always think and react. But Marcus Smart being on that floor, the role that he's going to have defensively on Steph, and I know the Golden State Warriors are way more than just Steph and Curry these days, but I think that's a huge pivotal piece that we kind of overlook sometimes. So that's one with Marcus Smart guarding Steph, but also Marcus Smart and the decision-making and the collective ability to calm people down, to get Jason Tatum to a place where he can react and be aggressive. I think the role of Marcus Smart in this series is by far the most important role. I know Jason Tatum has to be prolific and score the rock, but controlling the pace and the tempo of the game, if Marcus Smart can elevate his game to that level and slow down runs and take possession of the ball and limit turnovers, I think my voice just spiked. Think about that. I've been talking all day long.
No, you're good.
But I think that's
We did
important
4 hours
for Marcus
of TV
Smart
before this.
and for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, it's all good. S.A., where are you?
Jay, I don't think either of you are wrong. I think either of you obviously make very salient points. I'm going to lean towards JJ in this regard, though, Jay. The stars have to be stars to win this series. And I think that Jason Tatum is a star. This brother is one of the top 10 players in the NBA right now, I believe. He's big time. There's no question about it. He's got to play big time. But I'm going to tell you a name neither of y'all brought up, but y'all ain't going to disagree with this. Oh, Jaylen Brown got to show up, too. Jaylen Brown got to show up because this is another star. Now, he ain't Jason Tatum, but he ain't far off. We know the ability that Jaylen Brown brings to the table. This brother's a star. What's the problem with him? Turns the ball over sometimes at key pivotal moments, I might add. Too much dribbling, trying to, relying on his athleticism and his creativity. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And it sort of negates what Jason Tatum or Marcus Smart may have done at a particular moment in time during the game. So I would tell you that both of y'all are right. You ain't wrong about the Tatum and Marcus Smart components, even though I side more with JJ in that regard, because I think when you're going against the likes of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers, along with the emergence of Jordan Poole, the experience of a Draymond Green, with Tatum being 6'9", and in a position to use his abilities to take advantage of various mismatches that he might be presented with, I also think that the second offensive option on the Boston Celtics is Jaylen Brown, and he's got to be effective at all. It's going to take both of them in order to win the series. Just like Steph can't beat Boston by himself, he's going to have help. And we all know the collective. We all understand that. But I'm just talking about at least one individual that plays like a star during the games like Steph is expected to. Jason Tatum needs that assistance as well. And that's why I don't want to leave Jaylen Brown out.
Stephen, I'm glad you brought up Jaylen Brown because this is a really interesting matchup when I look at Jaylen Brown versus Klay Thompson. If I sort of look at how these teams are going to match up, like the assumption is, right, Smart and Curry match up, Wiggins and Tatum match up, the bigs, they'll figure it out how they match up. But Jaylen Brown versus Klay Thompson. Jaylen Brown offensively, Klay Thompson as an elite two-way player prior to his leg injuries, like can he maximize his lateral ability to stay in front of Brown? That's the thing I'm going to watch. Brown on the defensive end has historically had lapses off the ball, and we all know Klay Thompson is so good in his off-ball movement. So the two of them, that matchup could very well decide not just one game, but multiple games in this series.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me ask you guys this quickly before we get on out of here. How much does the finals experience matter, JJ? Obviously that the Warriors have so much of it and the Boston Celtics have none. The entire team's never played in a finals game.
I do think it matters to a degree in the lead up to the game. Because these days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the lead up to game one, the days in between games, if you've been there before, like you understand all of the media is watching you. It's unlike anything you've experienced. The moment feels bigger than anything you've done before in your career. The tickets, getting rest, the travel back and forth, East Coast to West Coast, in between games, like all that matters. And that could be a distraction. I don't think the game itself matters. The game itself is decided upon how I match up versus this team and how you match up versus us. That's ultimately what the game is decided on. But the ancillary stuff, the secondary stuff, like that to me could potentially be a distraction if you haven't gone through it before. And as a young player on a young team back in 2009, like I remember all of us feeling that this moment was so big. We also, I want to bring up one other point. We also felt like we were going to get there again. I can remember sitting on the floor after Kobe beat us in Orlando, Game 5. Me, Jameer, Dwight, we're sitting there, we're watching them celebrate. We walk back in the locker room. We'll be back there next year. We had all these young players under contract. We had this core group of people. We thought we would be back. Sometimes you don't get back. And so for the Celtics, they really have to focus on maximizing this opportunity right now. There may not be another opportunity.
I would say,
Start right there. Molly, Jay,
Yeah.
I hope y'all don't mind. JJ, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about here, just in terms of what you just brought up. I am incredibly curious to know your answer to this question. Who did you feel you had a better chance with winning a championship? I know you got to the finals with Orlando, right? But you were also with Lob City. You had CP3, you had Blake Griffin, you had DeAndre Jordan. Who do you believe you had a better chance to win a championship with? I'm just curious.
That's actually the second Orlando team that lost in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2010. I thought that was our better team than the team that made the finals. And we had beaten the Lakers twice that year. I thought we matched up a little bit better with them that year. And then my first year in LA, this is sort of, we beat the Warriors in the first round, Stephen A.
Yep.
We tricked a couple games off in that Oklahoma City series. I thought that was our best chance. I don't know that that was our best team, but I thought that 2014 Clippers team was our best chance to win a championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I asked that question because I always thought that myself, because Golden State was just learning how to win. And I thought if y'all had beaten them, y'all could have went to the finals,
All right, we'll leave it there. Plenty more to come from First Take live from the Seaport and the Bay. We're coast to coast today, still ahead. The Warriors are in the finals. Kevin Durant